Hi, I'm attorney Keith Johnson, and welcome back into the Lawyer's Lounge. So we made it. We completed our Behind the Bar series. And I know that you learned something because you couldn't help but learn, because we told real stories and real scenarios as we walked through the criminal justice system. But we're not quite done yet. I thought it was really important for us to bring in real people to illustrate what it feels like to be caught in the criminal justice system. And we also have a prosecutor. Yes, a prosecutor came into the Lawyer's Lounge to talk about the dynamics from their point of view in fighting crime and protecting victims' rights as the person with the discretion to charge or dismiss cases. And so I think you're gonna enjoy those conversations with my former clients and with colleagues who I've had great battles with. So sit back and relax as we recap Behind the Bar and preview what's to come on this special edition of the Lawyer's Lounge with attorney Keith Johnson. So as we walk through what we just encountered, we started with the first episode, which was the crime. As we all know, that is a big topic for TV shows because there's something innate in the human nature about wanting to know how people get in trouble and, more importantly, how they get out of trouble. I think it's because it's intriguing to try to put together the pieces to a puzzle. It may be fascinating to see how people deal with serious situations and consequences, and it makes for dramatic screenwriting. But we started with the crime. And the fact that crime is something that we all engage in one way or another, whether it's a traffic violation or, heaven forbid, one of the more serious cases that I face time and time again. And then we went to that arrest and what the police and the government have to prove in order to detain you and to make sure that your rights are preserved. Because one of the purposes of this show is to provide knowledge. Not in any kind of arrogant way, but in a way that teaches the general public and people that I care about their rights. Because if you don't know your rights, you don't know when your rights are really being violated. But that arrest is a very important part of the criminal justice system. As a defense attorney, we want to challenge that arrest when possible, when the police didn't do what they were supposed to do by the Constitution. And with that arrest comes that first court appearance. And that's when the attorney gets involved. And I tried to walk through what it's like when a family comes into your office mortified that a loved one is in custody. And so you're hearing a little bit of the story, not the complete story. And you get to that first meeting and you want to make sure that the client understands that my only rule is don't lie to me, because I want to be able to defend you properly. In doing that, I need to know the truth so I can know what to ask and what to stay away from. And that first court appearance and that first bond hearing is a chance to really show your stuff to the family so that they know that they're in good hands. And after that, there's the waiting game. Remember that long middle episode when we talked about the discovery and going through the file and reading the incident reports and watching the body camera videos and all those things that Hollywood skips over? Because seriously, who wants to watch that? But as an attorney and as a practitioner, a trial lawyer, that's where the cases are won. That's the dirty work. If we are equating this to sports, that's a Wednesday practice before that Saturday game. That's when we iron out the kinks and see what the weaknesses are in the state's case. So that long middle is not something to gloss over. I would encourage you to go back and listen to that episode if you have some free time. And then we have decisions. And let me tell you, those decisions are when the attorney-client relationship can break up from time to time. Because I'm giving advice based on the facts, not based on emotions, not based on what your grandmama prayed, but based on the facts of the case and my experience. And sometimes the client doesn't like what I have to say. But I have to be honest, those clients who buck my advice, some of them really are the legendary cases that I've been a part of in my career. Now, I'm not advocating for just rolling the dice, but in those cases, it worked out. But the decisions have to be made based on the facts and based on the potential consequences if you are not successful at trial. And after that decision is made that we are not going to go forward with this plea agreement, now it's showtime. And that's what I do. I try to be the best trial lawyer I can be, but only if there's no other option. And so then we got into the first part of the jury trial process. Picking the jury, looking at the facial expressions, knowing what kind of juror I believe fits the kind of case that I'm defending, whether it's a young person or whether it's a police officer. Those things matter. The jurisdiction that you are trying to case in matters as well. And that opening statement is a way to hit them in the mouth from the very onset if you have that kind of case. Some cases are vague. You don't really know how the witnesses are going to testify. And in that case, we give that very generic opening statement to give ourselves options at the end, because you never want to overpromise anything. And in part 2 of the jury trial, when we get into that cross-examination and I feel like I have the witness in my grasp, why do you have to stay in the moment? Go back and listen to that episode. You stay in the moment because you have to know when you've hit a nerve. And if you're so focused on your notes, you cannot see those things. And then we talked about that one truthful moment, that closing argument when you get to sum up what the evidence showed from your perspective. And that's the last time you have to address that jury before the verdict, and waiting in the lawyer's lounge for that phone call from the bailiff saying, Mr. Johnson, the jury has a verdict. And no matter how many times I've done it over the last 17 years, your heart is beating out of your chest no matter how long you've done it. When you get your belongings, you straighten up your tie, and you head out of the lawyer's lounge into that courtroom, knowing that all eyes on you, knowing that your client is looking at your facial expression and your body language to see if you're still confident. And when you rise to accept that verdict, it can be exhilarating, a feeling like none other. And we tried to outline that in our bonus episode with the federal trial and how we felt waiting for that verdict and receiving that verdict, and how the weight feels like it's lifted and all the challenges that you endured essentially to get to that point seem like they were so worth it. But you know we keep it real here. So I also walked you through those cases that my client was found guilty and how that feels and how you have to have empathy and be patient as we navigate what's next and the fact that your client may be serving a long sentence while the fight continues on the outside. And those are the episodes that were behind the bar in this season 2. It was a great joy, and it's something that we're going to build on going forward. But it doesn't end here, because what's a story without being able to talk to people who've lived it, who've endured it? So I brought in some very special guests. John Pierre Washington is a young man you're going to hear from. College graduate, no prior record, but he found himself charged with voluntary manslaughter in Aiken County, South Carolina, from a Christmas Day event. And you're going to hear what happened and how he found himself with this crazy charge for simply defending himself. You're going to hear how it essentially put his life on pause. We had a great job, and he was just trying to do the right thing in life. And what it feels like to be in the throes of the criminal justice system, knowing that your life can be gone in the blink of an eye. And then we heard from another client, a former client, I might say, Vincent Carter Jr., affectionately known as Champ. He was 16 years old when we met, just a young man, charged with murder, although he was shot himself during the process. His case received a lot of media attention throughout this area and beyond. And fortunately, he had a happy ending. But you're going to hear about everything that happened in between and when he was awaiting his day in court, and all of his hopes and dreams of being an athlete seemed to be gone because of the allegation that took place. And so the criminal justice system is nothing without illustrations of how it affects real people. And finally, we're going to wrap up this series with hearing from an esteemed colleague, a personal friend of mine who just happens to be an assistant district attorney. He was a defense attorney at the public defender's office before he moved over roles as a chief assistant. His name is Kevin Davis. We're going to talk about our shared athletic backgrounds and what led him to the law, because his story is similar to mine. And we're going to ask tough questions about what it means to have restorative justice, what it means to rehabilitate somebody versus just punishment, and what his views are on violence in the community, violence beyond this community, and what it means to be an advocate for victims. So that's where we are, and that's where we're going. I've thoroughly enjoyed walking through the criminal justice system and the things that I do every day that have become second nature. Being able to explain it gives me a different perspective on the impact of the work that I try to do and also the burdens that it comes with. We are nothing without our education. We are nothing without our rights, and we have to know those. No matter who's in the White House, no matter who's in the governor's mansion, your rights belong to you as an American. Thank you for your support during this process. We hope that the series has been educational and at times inspirational. We hope you've laughed a little bit, and we hope that you have had to think and put yourself in the shoes of other people, because empathy is something that the world needs more of. So, the past is behind you. There's nothing that you can do about that. If you must look back with gratitude, knowing that God was with you every step of the way. There's nothing in the past for you. It's just illustrative to show that you can overcome things that seem hard. The future, we know who it belongs to. It belongs to God. We don't know what the future is. It only comes with anxiety if you focus on it too long. Stay in the present, where the magic happens, where you can control the things that are in front of you, where you can treat the people who you come into contact with right, and where you can always keep going forward, trusting in the good Lord. Until next time, salute.
And I just felt the gun to my chest, and it was shocking.